Welcome to a new episode of Box Breakers, the podcast that redefines what's possible. Today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of corporate innovation with a true force in this field. I'm thrilled to have Riccardo Ferrone with me, a specialist for corporate innovation. His journey has taken him from Italy to Sweden, Singapore, and now Berlin, currently at Tesla, and also a lot of different industry experience, venture capital, automotive, also a little bit in the energy sector now. So yeah, that gives him a truly unique lens on pushing boundaries within established organizations. Welcome, Riccardo. I'm very happy to have you here.
Hi, Meret. Thank you for having me. I'm pretty happy with your invitation, and I will just like to start by saying that this conversation, everything I'm gonna say, it's part of my personal opinions, and I'm not currently representing any company I've worked for or I'm currently working for. Apart from this, it's a pleasure. Thank you for the introduction.
Of course, yeah, always important to clarify this. But Riccardo, for our listeners who might not have direct touch points with corporate innovation, how would you explain what you do to someone who has no idea what it is?
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of introduction, what corporate innovation is all about is understanding, what's your next move in a specific market, or maybe in other markets outside of the domain of the company you are working should be. So it's all revolves around understanding where the market is going and maybe if you should open up the company to new territories, let's say. Ultimately, the goal, of course, it's not to be stiff and not to concentrate too much on what you are currently doing, because of course that's the recipe for disaster, especially in nowadays, since the world is evolving so fast that if you don't not even adapt, you have to be one step ahead, right? Otherwise, the competition or new incumbents can easily take your market away. And so it's fundamental to have people who not only think about what is necessary to bring a company forward, but also put that into practice by, laying down roadmaps, plans, and thinking about new type of product or services, obviously according to what the specific company or field required.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And as you said, the world is changing faster and faster. It feels like we're just accelerating. Also, your professional journey is quite dynamic, I would say. I've already said lots of different countries, cultures, and also a few different industries. Can you walk us through your journey so far, and maybe also tell us how and why you are now at Tesla?
Yeah, for sure. My journey started a few years ago when I decided to study engineering. Right, I've always been fascinated with new technologies, and the more futuristic they sound, the more interested I was, and that's probably why I chose materials engineering and nanotechnology, because I don't know, it sounded cool, like out of a movie. So I wanted to pursue that and find out what the world had to offer. And so I started with that. I started to get a little bit more also on the business side. But that was at the beginning mostly a personal interest, so was maybe reading or watching videos about it, and then slowly, during my studies, I crafted a path for myself through international experiences. Yes, at the beginning, yes, in Sweden, that was an Erasmus in which gave me the opportunity to open up a little bit my perspective around what was currently being done abroad, right? Especially in a country like Sweden, which is mostly focused on sustainability. And I start to get my first contacts also into the business world through a few courses, which got the opportunity to interact with the companies currently innovating in everything related to sustainability. And then while I was still in university, yes, with some other colleagues, we decided to co-found this student association based on nanotechnology, because as I said, we were all pretty interested in this topic, which always sparks curiosity, what it could be, like some far-fetching future in which everything is modeled at the nanoscopic level, and that was pretty cool. And we decided that what we were told in university was like not enough, or maybe too much theoretical. Unfortunately, sometimes, especially in Italy, there is too much focus in university on theoretical topics, so we lack a little bit that exposure to real life innovation. And so we got the opportunity, another opportunity to interact with outside expert and the industry. We got to participate to international events. There was this event organized in Barcelona called Puzzle X around innovation in the materials field. Very instructive opportunities, and to get a more real grasp about what's going on in the world in this around this field, and how it's gonna evolve in the next few years. Yeah, then after this, I proceeded with my international experiences. As you mentioned, in Singapore, I got an even more wider exposure, since it's I think one of the R&D capital of the world, in my opinion. Like, there is a lot of R&D research going on, very cool applied research, and I got a little bit of exposure there through both my master thesis, which maybe was a little bit less applied, more theoretical, where I got the opportunity to touch a pretty cool topic, which is simulation with quantum computers. Was pretty new at the time. It's still today, but at the time even more. And also, as you mentioned, I got a first exposure also to venture capital in the deep tech sector, meaning around those startups which are more focused on building like physical products and innovating with products that are not software based, let's say. And there I also collaborated with this venture studio, which focused on really cool topics such as startups related to material science. Yeah, that was a kind of dream come true, right? Having the opportunity to be at the forefront of something that I've always read, maybe on books or watch videos about, and to be in the center of that was pretty cool. And finally, the last few years, I've started my professional journey in Brembo, which is the leader for production of high-end braking system for the automotive industry. It's an Italian leading company. It's been a pretty cool experience to work at the innovation there, in the middle between strategy, business, and R&D innovation. And it was pretty cool to have the opportunity since the beginning of my career to provide ideas on what the company direction could be, and interact with senior leadership. And it's pretty cool to see also like the future of mobility. That was another interesting first experience. And finally, what brought me here been the dream to always work for an American company who is who usually are associated with epitome of innovation, right? And Tesla has been known, of course, for continuously pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved. And I also wanted to to get more a grasp of the battery sector and maybe also energy one, and getting exposed to through my work here in Tesla.
Very cool. So it's like a dream coming true.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. I'm happy to hear that, especially here in beautiful Berlin, Brandenburg, at the factory. So interesting to hear all your different stations and all the different experiences that kind of shaped you. If you think back at your career or also like personal life, we've been talking also before this, and you've told me that you have this, or you felt this urge to do things differently, and that is what innovation is about. And is there a specific time or a specific challenge where you really thought like, hey, okay, I want to try something new, I want to do things differently, maybe even before you knew that that was called innovation?
Yeah, for sure. Like in many of the experiences I had, I've been drawn at the beginning mostly by curiosity. I think and the very base, like what's driving innovation is obviously curiosity, right? To find out if things can be done differently, and to challenge a little bit how the world views how a process or a product or a service is usually implemented, right? For sure, a few examples that comes up to my mind. It's like the research I did in Singapore, for sure, was something which was, as I said, pretty innovative, and which not many people were working around that at the time. But at the beginning, it was just the drive to find out more about quantum computers. You hear there are these machines who are able to do this incredible calculation, but something again out of sci-fi. Sounds like we have heard the headlines, I don't know, a few years ago about Google chips being able to perform calculation which were supposed to be impossible with classical computers. So that was something that attracted me towards, and I think ultimately that usually what's push you towards let's see how this work. Then once you start to find out, you then push a little bit more with your own ideas how like the field or the topic forward, right? This is something that obviously happen more continuously in research than with a more applied side and also economic focus approach in corporate. Also got the opportunity to see that a little bit in Brembo, right? Having the opportunity to collaborate with startups, right? You have a little bit more opportunity to push new ideas and see where this can lead both the company and the sector in itself. To me, it's always been fascinating to think where this could lead, right? Because again, growing up reading stories about cool entrepreneurs, especially Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, you read about how a simple idea who came up, I don't know, even maybe just during a talk or something like that, then pushed towards a revolution, and it's another thing that pushed me towards that is thinking exactly about that, like, what if by proposing this idea, through this collaboration, we can change a sector or change the world in that particular direction? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. And what I'm hearing is not only like a natural curiosity and like inspiration, as you said, like reading and just hearing success stories of others, but also exposure to different contexts, cultures, and like Singapore, I've never been, sadly, but can imagine it's pretty different from the way things are being done in Italy, for example, or in Sweden. So I'm hearing also this exposure to different cultures and contexts and seeing how do people work there, and what can I take from that to then also bring in here, to like add a new component to this.
Yeah, for sure. That's like a multiculturalism is for sure another key ingredients of innovation, because especially in corporate environments, since you need to also think about the different geographies in which maybe the company is going to work to commercialize the new innovation. You also have to think about how people are gonna take your innovation, like the take they're gonna have on it, and at the same time, like as you mentioned, like different cultures can have different approaches. One thing is we can agree on is, for example, that in the US there is more less risk aversion, and that's also why that brought to many successful companies, whereas which is in very stark contrast maybe to Europe.
It's like the classic from rags to riches.
Exactly.
Fairy tale.
It's more. Is mostly it's become like a sort of mythology, right, on the country, which can have good and bad impact, but that's another topic. And even talking about Singapore, it's true that like also some places also have the right characteristics and resources, but are not fully engaging with them, fully exploiting them. For example, when I was there and when I was talking with some of the managing director of a venture studio I collaborated with, what I found out is that even though there is like world leading applied research, it's still difficult to convert that into business idea, right, into companies, because still the city, the country is still focused a lot on financials, like financial sector, real estate, and there is still a little bit of risk aversion towards, high capex startups idea, who obviously need a specific type of investment structure to be sustained until they reach a viable product. But that's why innovation is also composed of different other factors. Like, it's not just simple the idea, it's also the execution, the capital to bring it up to market, and without the whole environment you cannot push something forward.
Yeah, definitely. I like, so interesting to hear. Also, just a thought that just came to my mind, since we're both young professionals. I would call ourselves young still, but a lot of young professionals that I talk to, they often feel a little bit stifled or held back when it comes to innovation, because they sometimes believe they lack the influence to innovate. So some of them might be thinking, oh, but I can only innovate and set up new things and bring in new ideas if I already know the systems and the old ways. Like, I need to know the old system first, because before I can implement a new one, for example. And also maybe lacking the influence within the company, like, how is someone going to listen to me as a young professional, especially in this field where you want to innovate, you want to kind of open up new possibilities. And when you're talking, it sounds like from day one you already had this kind of change agent, innovation mindset, regardless of what your role was. So is there maybe, I don't know, any advice that you can give, or what helped you? Like, how did you get this kind of confidence to be an innovator?
Well, for sure, it's you need a little bit of an attitude to push forward this kind of idea. You have to think that, of course, your idea, even though you are young, doesn't mean it's worthless or it cannot be something useful. Obviously, then it needs to be tested out and shared and confronted with the reality and also the opinion of more senior leadership, because it's still true that even though young people can innovate and can bring new fresh ideas, then especially in some fields, like experience is still very, very much needed, right? I think especially like in more physical-based industries, and not just software, but more hardware related industry, like to get more experience, it's quite needed, of course, because it's much more complex than just maybe just a software or an app where you can bring much more easier innovation. But for sure, one thing that is that, as you said, to bring more depth and gravitas to your opinion is to build a network as much as possible, and let people both in the companies you are working or I don't know, outside, know about like your ideas and what your interests are, and your path, right? Because this obviously, like having like a mutual relationship with the people who then need to listen to your ideas and potentially help you implement them. Usually, as I said, more senior people, it helps a lot to have a relationship with them, let's say, right?
Like a give and take, for example. Like
yes,
sometimes you take, sometimes you give.
Yeah, let's say that for sure. Helping them out in what, in also what are their, understanding also what can be their goals. It's useful, of course. It's not just what you want to achieve, but it's better if it's in line, aligned with also what they want to achieve. Of course, that's gonna help your cause along the way.
And that's actually like a good point, like how to build credibility and trust when you're a young innovator, especially when you want to present new, potentially disruptive ideas to senior leaders, to executives, and how to generate buy-in from them. So you said establishing a mutual relationship, but also trying to identify what their goals are and see how your ideas can be in line with them, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. That's very can be very useful because, as I said, if you start from a base of a mutual relationship with them and not just coming by, said I have this idea. Yeah, you can maybe still be considered, but it's less probable, right? If you want to increase the probability of being taken more seriously, it's good to create something more meaningful with them, and for sure also doing your normal tasks, normal job pretty good is also a good thing to do, a good starting point, because of course if you are doing the rest bad, it's like, why do I have to listen to someone who...
Then you're just bringing chaos.
Yeah, who doesn't even do his like normal task right.
You got to bring the results and then bring the creative chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Like you show them, I did like everything it's required of me already pretty good. Now I listen, I have this new ideas. What would you think about it? Shall we bring it up at maybe at higher level? I don't know, something like that.
Communication on eye level, definitely. And
then saying, as I said, like, this idea could bring this benefit to the company. This is aligned to what you told me you want to achieve, both as senior leadership, or both as where you want to bring the company yourself through your role, right? And that for sure can be a good
like a basis. Yeah.
Good basis for them to listen to your ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, one thing is like getting the buy-in from senior leadership, and the other thing is then bringing those ideas actually to life, especially like within large established organizations. As we said in the beginning, today want to dive a little bit deeper when it comes to corporate innovation, which comes with its own set of practical challenges, very different from like a startup culture. And there's always this word of like corporate inertia, just as like corporate, And I think inertia describes it best. Just like very hard to get ideas actually, like new disruptive ideas actually established and implemented. And if we're thinking about the how, from your experience, what are the biggest drivers that of this inertia? Like we often say corporate inertia is like the silent killer of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So what really drives this inertia? Is it more like the processes that have been in place since ever? Is it more like a risk averse culture? Or is it even maybe the leadership mindset?
Well, for sure, for what I could see, it's like a mixture of things. Like the first one that comes to my mind, which is more problematic, is the inevitable increase of bureaucracy as a company. Increases which is, I think it's exponential. Like if a company grows linearly, the bureaucracy grows exponentially, which is that is like very crazy. Like in some companies, like there are these processes in place which are just really like bureaucratic. If you think about it, doesn't make any sense for them to be like that. Maybe, I don't know, there are some fiscal reason behind or some regulation which are also bureaucracy based and should be changed, but still it's unbelievable how it can slow down, because when I think it inevitably turn down the morale of people, right? Because I want to bring up this thing, I want to implement this innovation, but there are so many obstacles. You have to bring this document, you have to wait for that other person to approve. It's like, come on. And so that's for sure the mentality, of course, but that's more dependent from company to company and also from culture to culture, as we discussed also before. That could bring up a problem sometimes in some companies, because they have been in leadership position in their sector for a long time. They think they don't need to innovate so much or to change so much from what they're doing, but that is recipe for disaster, of course, because it's you open up yourself to a lot of incumbents from both startups and other, I don't know, normal your competitors to then disrupt your market. And leadership, then it depends again also on the people, if they are willing to listen to you, as we said, if you are able to convince them or not. It depends a lot, because maybe you find someone who is above you, that it's very open to new ideas, but then you go, the idea you want to implement takes much more effort, both economically and from a people
like human resource
resource point of view, and so you need to go higher, and then higher the mentality is different, or the focus is on something else. And so for sure these all combine, like the more of this parameters, but
those factors.
Those factors are involved, the more of they combine, and the more difficult it becomes to. But for sure, like one idea I developed could be that there should be some function, something which is, I think, in some places are already present, to at least try to avoid this phenomenon, to build some, I don't know, corporate innovation offices, something like that, which
like institutionalize it.
Yes, but which you shouldn't build this office and then drown it in the same type of structure you have built the rest of the company, right? Because for sure, like, structure and some level of bureaucracy are needed in some peculiar in some industries, also because you need like there are complex processes, everything need to be efficient, so you need a little bit of that. But for corporate innovation, will be good to have this kind of office in which, I don't know, you have less amount of people from different background that complement each other, more horizontal structure, which again particularly difficult to implement in established companies, and more freedom, right? And then let them develop ideas and test them out, and then bring them once it starts to be tested out, and it's becomes something. How would you say something?
Like when you have like your MVP.
Yeah,
kind
MVP.
of?
When it becomes MVP and start to create some sort of return, then you can start to structure it more into the rest of the company, right?
So like it sounds to me like a catalyst program, like having like your, or like an incubator, like having like your own incubator within your organization. That's kind of like a place not free from bureaucracy and guidelines, of course, but a little bit more loosened up, where employees actually can test out and experiment with their ideas.
Yeah, it's of course then it's more easier said than done, because inevitably, as I said, culture and leadership. Then even if you eliminate bureaucracy through the creation of these offices, then culture and leadership can enter in and can make everything more problematic. But for sure it's a start, and it's something I've seen do it also when I participate in a few innovation-based events. It's something that has been done also by some major companies, right? And with some good results, some innovative enough results, let's say, for companies you would associate more with stiff processes. That show that it could be a way. Yeah, for sure, not be substitution for high growth startups like what we usually see, as again I mentioned at the beginning, in places like the US. Yeah, it will not be the same, but it's at least a path forward.
Yeah, 100%. And thinking about this also, like we talked about the processes, but also the culture and this like risk aversion that corporates, like we always think they like just fundamentally have that. But is risk aversion and innovation, are those like two opposite ends? Or is it also possible to kind of bring them together? Like how do you de-risk innovation? How do you, is risk aversion, is that always bad, or is that also needed to a certain extent?
Well, of course, especially in companies in which brand reputation is pretty important for the well functioning of the company, because it's like most of the value of a company is based on the brand awareness. You have to look out, have introduced a little bit of a risk, not risk aversion, but risk awareness at least, because if you turn out damaging the brand, it could have long-lasting effects. But you have also to wait out between the advantages of potentially damaging your brand and the disadvantages of not improving it, right?
Yeah, which is also a risk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the most or the highest risk aversion can also be a risk in the end.
Yeah, that's very true. So it could be that it depends on in which direction you push innovation, right? There can be some innovation which is mostly made to protect yourself from your competitors, so based already on what you are doing, and that I think it's like what you are already an expert in, which that could be more let's say risk adverse and also still needed because you need to protect your market share.
It's like your comfort zone, kind of.
Yes,
right?
And then divided between this and another push towards more radical innovation that can help you into enter new markets and new sector, right? But I think this depends a lot also on leadership, probably like senior leadership need to have this vision to push this forward, because usually otherwise this kind of more radical things cannot be achieved otherwise if there is no alignment from the top.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why also in open innovation practices, which is something also I dealt with while I was working at Brembo. It's one of the most important things. It's the awareness of senior leadership about how innovation is going, and like the direction in which the company innovation is going needs always to be obviously aligned from the top, but always receive a feedback also from all the other employees, right? Yeah. Alignment. They all need to be like ships aligned towards like a navy, or aligned towards the same direction. Like you can have different teams, but everything needs to be aligned in the same.
It's actually a beautiful picture that you're painting. And I also like how you said how you switch from risk aversion to risk awareness. I think that's actually a really like a key term. Thinking also about, I mean, you've said also you've worked with open innovation, and I also know that you, for example, implemented a additive manufacturing projects. And when it comes to implementing these sorts of innovative new technologies in an environment that is already there, like there is already an established environment, what kind of challenges, resistance comes with that? Like me also talking from the perspective as someone in change management, and also trying to implement more innovative solutions, innovative technologies. Like if we look at, for example, the people aspect, what kind of resistance did you in those projects encounter? How did you manage expectations? How did you facilitate this implementation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure it can be difficult, because when you bring something new up to people who have always done things in a certain way, it can be, let's say, welcomed with at least suspicion, or like it can be felt like a waste of time by some people. But for sure, I think things that could be done to help out in this direction is to communicate clearly, like why we are doing this, what could be the potential benefit, what could be the potential also downfall, let's say. Yeah, and have a clear expectation of where it could lead us, be as aligned as possible, between the different division of the company involved. Like you want to be as transparent as possible, of course, up to what is allowed from secret point of view. Like, I don't know, there are maybe, some company division in specific company who are more, who needs to keep stuff more inside, but be as aligned as possible. It's always a good thing to do when you want to achieve new innovative when you want to walk in this new innovative paths, let's say, because as they do in startups, right, they are all aligned with a mission. We need to reach this because we need to solve this problem in the world. We need to make our customer happy in this way, and for sure trying to recreate that also in corporate, which again, it's not easy, but it's what should be done, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like it's kind of what everyone's trying to work towards, is like how do you actually cut also those silos that come up. Like you've also, I think, also worked with like or collaborated with different functions within the company. So when it comes to cross-functional collaborations and trying to get rid or cut these silos, how do I do that? Like, what's the strategy behind that?
Well, for sure, it's can stem from, for example, understanding what are the the needs of the different silos, also understanding why there are these silos right at the beginning, to understand if, first of all, they can be lifted, like if it's something that has been created as a sub-effect or sub-product of culture, or if it's something that is like properly needed by company structure. Because in the first case, you can try to avoid these silos from being present in the future. And then for sure, and as I was saying at the beginning, understanding like what could be their needs, what they want to achieve, and align it with the needs and not the pathway. It's like a roadmap. Yeah, the roadmap you have for your corporate silo. Let's say align them together in a sense that it's more cohesive, right? It's not just I'm gonna do this because we have always focused on this small section of our product, of our process. No, like try to understand how the silos like fit into one with each other, and this slowly builds up into a more cohesive view. I think that is something I saw, like for example, in my previous company. You have these new projects, you're gonna bring it up, and you hear, that section of the company, of the R&D is working on that other project, and if you are working in your silo, you don't really understand like how does interact with the rest of the company strategy, right? So you have to build on the strategy and roadmaps of the different section into a more cohesive one, which gives you a better idea. But this needs to be shared not just at high level, but with as much people as you can. Obviously, always be in line with needed secrecy, of course, of the different activities that are going on in the company. But
like synergizing it like makes total sense from also like a change management perspective. Like at work, we've recently done a huge implementation of a new AI tool for all employees, and of course, like for people in the innovative bubble, that is not really like the newest innovation that is there, but for a lot of people it is. And also trying to, like, we also in the beginning spent a lot of time focusing on kind of getting this stakeholder analysis right and setting up a roadmap and just like a landscape. Okay, where do we currently have silos? What are these people working on? And trying to synergize that, which also I feel like comes down a lot to company culture. Because if company culture is very competitive, and if it's very, we want to be the first, we want to be the best, that can really be a negative impact or a negative factor for innovation, where you actually really want to join forces, you want to join efforts, and collaborate on that. But makes total sense what you said. And I mean, we've talked a lot about implementing innovation right now, in the here, in the now, in the current, but as you also said in the beginning, it's not about overcoming current challenges. It's about anticipating also what's next. So let's take a look at the future. In your opinion, which sector do you think is currently the most open to radical innovation? And maybe why? Why do you believe they have such potential?
I mean, nowadays I think we are going through a lot of changes all at the same time. To pinpoint exactly which you think is gonna be a sector like in need of a lot of innovation, it's difficult. But I think more tell about what I think is gonna be some of the sector which are gonna bring more because of how they are exploding right now, the kind of innovation they can bring to whole other sectors. Probably didn't phrase this correctly, but like for example, I really think like robotics is gonna be in the next few years like very impactful in a bunch of other industries, right? Because thanks now to how also AI is evolving, aside from all the different tools that we use every day, the next step is more physical based AI
Not
models.
generative, but
Yes, but stuff which learns and act on the physical world. Which mixed with recent advancements in robotics could have a real high impact on a different sector, right, where all the manual labor is involved. Also, everything which more difficultly done by humans nowadays could become much more easier thanks to this type of innovation. I think a lot of this been defined exponential technologies, like for example AI, robotics, then other exponential technologies are like, for example, I think quantum computing, synthetic biology. Like when they are going to interact with each other and they are slowly, not so slowly doing that, we are going to have many effects on different sectors, right?
And then it's also probably, like I totally agree, but then it's also probably down to how open are the sectors for that, because we've talked about bureaucracy and restrictions and guidelines before, and especially now thinking about sectors like healthcare, pharma, like where you already have so many restrictions in place. You will probably need more of them when AIs, and robotics are implemented even more.
Maybe one. Now that I'm thinking about one field that needs more innovation is exactly like bureaucracy.
Like, that is very true, though.
It is like you need a lot of innovation just to keep up with the rest of innovation, right?
Exactly.
And so that's probably the field because when you, by innovating there, you also help enabling much faster innovation in general.
Exactly.
So that's probably the answer you were looking for.
That is, I wasn't looking for any answer, but that is like, now that I think about it, that makes total sense. We always think about it in terms of a political way, so to say, where there are all these politicians always talking about, we want to be more digital, we want to be more innovative. However, the basis is not there yet. Like, you need to have these structures in place to then even be able to actually like make that feasible. Just thinking, because we've talked almost for an hour now. So maybe just to have like a last question in the end, because as you know, like, our podcast is called Box Breakers. We like to break boxes. Is there one critical box where you believe more corporates should break it? Like, maybe it even is bureaucracy.
Yeah, probably. I'm thinking I'm repeating. I didn't want to repeat myself too much, but finding new ways to enable innovation, right, without ending up with a common pitfall of corporate innovation, like inside big companies, which end up being just nice presentation to management that never execute, right? So it's like creating this structure so that employees from all levels can bring up these new ideas, not just end up being words shared with a management, but then being actually implemented. Because another thing we didn't mention is that it's not just like coming up with ideas is the first thing, just the first step, but then you have to create a structure for them to be like implemented and make into something concrete, right? And also people needs to be celebrated for that and rewarded for that, because
and rewarded for trying, not just for the results, but actually for experimenting, for trying it out, for having the bravery, kind of.
Exactly, because also that is it's like a reinforcing loop, right? Because the more people get recognized for trying to bring up something new, the more they feel motivated to do it again. It's a positive feedback loop, right?
Definitely.
And more focus on not only idea creation, but also how to implement that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can totally agree with that. Time for ponderables. After editing the episode with Riccardo, I have a few questions on my mind and I noted a few things down. So let's explore that. Starting off, one of the first things that really stuck with me was I noted it down as innovation isn't just about the finished product. It's about the very DNA of an innovator. And thinking about our conversation, Riccardo was talking about his path and how his path was shaped by a passion for futuristic movies and futuristic ideas and a natural curiosity that he has. So this got me thinking about the movies that I like to watch and thinking about that recently I have not watched a lot of futuristic movies or sci-fi movies, but I did really enjoy them when I was younger. So I will probably start a little experiment and try and watch more futuristic movies within the next month to see if that will spark some new ideas within me, or maybe even spark like a kind of, yeah, a spirit to follow through with ideas that might seem impossible at the beginning. Because if I'm being honest with myself, when I watch futuristic movies, I do leave differently and with a different feeling and a different spirit than as if I were to watch movies with, let's say, a flat storyline, thinking about very dry documentaries or even the news. And we consume the news every day. And I'm thinking about if that is maybe also a silent killer for our creativity and our sort of childlike curiosity and spirit. So, yeah, as I said, I will start this experiment and see if that will cultivate even more curiosity and ideas within me. The thought process behind that is that it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and focusing on immediate problems, but stepping back and consider the impossible is where true breakthroughs begin, I think. And as this podcast is also about, maybe it's not about finding the right answer right away, but simply opening your mind to new questions and new impossible things to think about. And as I said, like childlike curiosity, what if the best way to foster innovation within a corporate setting is not to create a process for it, but actually just to hire people who have this raw, this childlike curiosity, who are fascinated by the impossible. And of course, this is a very hypothetical question, because how would that look like in practice? How can we can't just hire people with, let's say, crazy ideas, or can we? Do we need them? How can we embed them? These are questions that I've been thinking about. And this also connects to something else that we've discussed, the so-called inevitable battle with corporate inertia. So Riccardo said that bureaucracy is a silent killer of innovation, and yeah, almost exponential force that stifles new ideas. And when talking about how can we fight that, he suggested creating something like a catalyst program or a less bureaucratic innovation office within a company. And this makes me wonder, and this is what I'm also thinking about, is what would it take to get buy-in for such a program from a leadership that is to the core just fundamentally risk averse? How can we frame the risk of not innovating as a greater threat? And I definitely agree with Riccardo when he said that it's about speaking their language, not in terms of risk, but in terms of opportunity of cost. So presenting a clear case that the biggest risk isn't trying something new, but it's actually becoming irrelevant. And the risk of standing still is far greater than the risk of moving forward. So I agree with that. However, I'm also thinking it is probably very specific to the unique company culture and the unique company language that is spoken. And yeah, thinking about how that would look like in practice. And if we want to take it a step further and think about a totally bureaucracy-free zone, how would that look like in practice? How would that look like in my organization? Or I'm even challenging you to think about, how would that look like in your organization? And how could this zone be protected from the very systems around it, the systems that the zone is actually designed to disrupt? I'm thinking that it would definitely require a different set of rules and a new kind of social contract with your employees, with the innovators within that zone. It would also definitely need some kind of firewall, so to speak, that protects and shields the innovators from the very systems that they are actually trying to change. So this space would need to be built on a lot of trust and on a shared vision where the focus is on experimenting, on learning, and not on pleasing a hierarchy. But playing devil's advocate here, how can you ensure that this isn't going totally out of control? That we're just spending time trying and experimenting and not focusing on making money and being profitable, because that is what you need. Like as a corporate, this is what you need in the end. So how can we balance that and combine the best of both worlds, so the crazy genius ideas and the experiments that are needed to come to these ideas, and the protection of our corporate systems that we have built that have led us to success in the past? And this also leads to one of the biggest questions Riccardo and me discussed: is being risk averse always a bad thing? So we talked about shifting from risk aversion to risk awareness. And this made me ask, how can we foster a culture? So let's not talk about this bureaucracy-free zone, this extreme example, but let's just talk about the company culture itself. So how can we foster a culture that values I like how Riccardo called it, he said, the bravery of trying, even if an idea doesn't work out. So how do we celebrate effort? How do we celebrate learning? And not just when there is a successful outcome. If we think it even further, even deeper, thinking about our world today and how fast-paced it is, all the change that is constantly happening, is this rags to riches mentality that drives so much innovation in places like the Silicon Valley, is this always a necessary component of success? Or is there maybe a more sustainable model that can be used in the corporate world? Because I'm thinking the drive behind the rags to riches mentality is about creating something from nothing. So that specific culture might not be sustainable for a corporate. However, the very spirit of it, that anyone with a great idea can change the world, that is very powerful. That is a very powerful force. So perhaps the most sustainable model for corporate growth is to try and embed that spirit, that maybe let's call it entrepreneurial spirit, deep within an organization. So I'm thinking about creating a culture where every employee feels empowered to act like a founder. But then again, people might not have the authority or the autonomy to do that and might get discouraged again. So a very, very complex thing to think about. How can we ignite this spirit within our employees and also give them the tools to act on it, and not have them completely dissatisfied and frustrated from the beginning because the systems around them are constraining them from acting on their ideas, but at the same time ensure that we don't go into a system of complete anarchy. And yet, of course, it dates back also to trust. Do I trust my employees? Can I trust them with the ideas that they have? As I said, I don't have all the answers. I rarely have any answers, actually, but I have the questions. And these are the questions that stuck with me that I will be thinking about. And I encourage you to think about it as well. And if you have some ideas, or if you even have some great examples from your own company and corporate context, please feel free to put them in the comments here. I would love to discuss them with you. But for now, let's go back to the conversation. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of this very insightful episode. Riccardo, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your perspectives on corporate innovation. It was really valuable to speak with you today. Before we wrap up finally, I always like to ask my guests, is there any recommendation you have for our listeners that they should explore? Is there any book, podcast, article, or anything to look at what you think is particularly interesting?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you also for having me. It's been really nice to receive your invite, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to share my views and my path to until now. For what concern some suggestion, maybe it's already quite known, but one book that really struck me when I read it has been Homo Deus by Harari.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
It's a pretty cool book about which gives you more forward, even more forward thinking about where humanity could be going towards, right? And it's pretty cool, to have more forward thinking views about where we are heading, and then from that maybe you can extrapolate some nice innovation ideas.
Thank you very much. We're definitely going to link that below in the show notes so people can explore. Again, thank you very much that you've been here and shared your perspectives with us. And to our listeners, if Riccardo's story has inspired you to challenge the status quo or rethink how innovation happens in your own environment, please feel free and share this episode with someone where you think they really need to hear it. And you can also find more about Riccardo on his LinkedIn profile. I'm going to link that below in the show notes. Until then, keep breaking those boxes. And thank you for listening.